Okay, all right, it's working. Yeah. So officially, welcome to Math 2009. As I said, we're going to be spending a long time here, so get comfortable. So as I told you, I'm going to be recording the class, and I'll be posting the videos on YouTube. So, where else? Right?
I saw some videos.
From who?
I don't know, on YouTube.
Oh, probably.
I don't know if it's you.
I don't know if it's me either. It could be any. A lot of people post their math videos on YouTube. So let's make sure. I'm looking at the little man in the camera, make sure everything's cool. Okay, so this is Math 2009. By the way, it's the same content as 2003, right? So any requirement, so that's potentially another option. Any requirement that this class will fulfill, that will also fulfill, right? This class is just, turns out that students have been traditionally performing poorly in this class, so decided, hey, you know, to help students out, let's attach a recitation to this, make it a little bit longer, give them more time to absorb the material, and that's how this class was created. But this is pretty much the same thing. So if you feel like you're really awesome at math and you don't want to spend like 6 hours in class, you could potentially register for this class.
I don't think we can.
No, we can't. Professor
Like,
said we couldn't.
You couldn't? So you're in a, like,
You weren't
it's
allowed
really
to.
a special program.
Because they said that
Unless there's like a referral.
like there's 2 classes combined. That's why it was like 4 days.
Yeah, there's a recitation, that's what it is. So it's not like a different class. So you'll be spending a lot of time with me, and then afterwards you'll do a recitation where you go over the same material. It's supposed to help you as, it's like a tutorial session. So anything that you miss in a lecture or you're practicing on homework and you weren't getting, you have a session dedicated to just answering your questions, going through trouble that you might have. I will be lecturing, I will be teaching you the material, and you should go home and practice the material, and then any gaps you have, you deal with in the recitation session. So it's not a separate class, technically. I'm not sure if 2009 is for a specific group of students to go in there. I know you can't take both at the same time, because the material overlaps 100%.
I think it's because the class like I took last semester, it had a recitation also, but it was just intermediate algebra and something else. So anyone that took that, I think has to take that.
Okay. I know this is experimental, so usually this class didn't have a recitation, but now it does. The non-recitation version in 2003, if the timing for this class is very inconvenient for you, you can probably talk to someone in the math department. I don't know if they can switch you or what. But the math department is here. That's on this floor. It's 230. So you can look into that. But assuming the timing is okay, I think overall you would perform better in this class than you would in 2003 because you have a lot more time and a lot more contact with people helping you. And it's kind of in your program. So my name is Jhevon. Call me Jhevon, that's fine. I've been in the CUNY system a long time. I've been teaching for almost 10 years. Started at City College, so I know about CUNY very well. I taught at Baruch for maybe 3 semesters now, so I haven't been at Baruch specifically for this long, but I've been teaching for a long time. And here's my email. So it's not my college email because, I don't know, if you work at Baruch, I think they think you work for the Pentagon or something. Like, if you skip a semester, they close down your email account, you like all your access is gone, and it's really annoying to start that up again, so I just decided, you know what, I'll use a personal email. So that's the email that if you need to talk to me, you should email me at, as well as if I'm emailing you, you might see emails from this. You might also see emails from a website called Jupiter Grades, which I'll talk about later. Yeah, so that's me, that's my email. That's important. The recitation instructor is someone named Aaliyah. I actually haven't met her, so I can't really talk about her. I'll actually meet her today for the first time, perhaps like some of you. This is the textbook. It's not super necessary to have it because this class will require an online homework system that will have an e-version of the textbook. So that's not by my choice, that's required. It's my MATLAB, so you might have, so if you've purchased it before, you should still have access to it. I don't know if you need to upgrade for the course, but instructions are on Blackboard. Okay, so yeah, so we're going to be doing that. So this is the website for the textbook in case you wanted, and these are answers to the textbook exercises you can actually find here at that website. This is the location of the math department in case you want to talk to an advisor, maybe make sure that you have to be in this class or what your options are, and that's the math department website. Calculators are required for this class, so you will need a TI-89 or a TI-92. Most of the examples I will do in class will be done on the TI-89. Yeah, this is the course description. It's pretty much the same as Math 2003. And as I mentioned here, content-wise, it's the same course as Math 2003, except you have a recitation section attached to it. That being said, that might be a point of confusion. If you go to Blackboard, a lot of the documents that you'll find in your Blackboard, they'll have the title Math 2003 on it. I don't want you to be confused by that. It's because this is literally the course Math 2003, just stretched out longer, right? So a lot of materials that you might see from the math department or from me in your Blackboard will actually have 2003 as the number. Don't be confused, it's the same thing. Okay? Here's the typical grade chart. That's how I'll be assigning your grades in this class. If you need to move on to the next course, Math 2205, you need a C- or better in this class. Okay? This here is, these requirements here are pretty stringent. Again, I didn't choose these, I'm kind of forced to do it this way. If you fail the final in this course, I should warn you, if you actually get less than 51% on the final exam, you will fail the entire course regardless of how you were doing in class. So that's a math department policy. Okay? So you can be getting an A average in the course. If you go to the final and you really mess up, that's it. Okay? So you should be aware of that. The final exam is really important, so I'm going to try to make sure that you can do very well on the final exam, even if it means I have to be a little bit harder than usual in class so that you're prepared, because the final exam is a really big deal. In terms of the grade breakdown, this is how it's going to look. The final exam, speaking of, is cumulative. It's at the end of the course. It is multiple choice. It is worth 33% of your grade. Quizzes will account for 10%. The homework in my MATLAB will account for 9%. And in-class tests will account for 48% of your grade. We will have 4 exams. Okay? As far as, and again, I don't have a lot of leeway. I'm usually the guy who I usually give a participation grade, you know, like attendance, I'll give you 5%. Yeah, I can't do that here. They're very serious. Because of all the extra help they're giving you, they're very serious on keeping things honest. So I can't really cut you guys any slack here, really. What I am allowed to do is, like, I can drop 2 quizzes, so if you mess up on 2 quizzes, I can do that. As well as if you actually do the online homework and you score an average of 80%, I'll bump you up your homework grade to 100%. So things like that I can do, but other than that, I can't really give you any brownie points, really.
Is there extra credit?
No extra credit. That's basically what I was saying. I can't really. I do take into account, like, improvement over time. You know, like, I keep track of student progress. So let's say you started out rough, you did really bad on the first few quizzes, probably did bad on the first test. But over the semester, you started to improve and you got better. So let's say that's your situation and you ended up at the end with like a B-. I might bump you to a B+ because I'll see that, okay, they kind of started off rough, but they were kind of building up. They should get a few extra points. But other than that, not really. In terms of makeups, no makeups for quizzes or homework, but if you have to miss a test, you need a very good reason, I can arrange a makeup for that. However, again, as a matter of departmental policy, if you miss 2 exams, I'm forced to fail you again. There's a lot of reasons why I'm forced to fail you. Yeah. Also, if you're absent a lot, I'm forced to fail you. I think the maximum amount you can be absent unexcused is 5 times. Okay? So if you're missing for more than 5 sessions, and really you shouldn't, missing 1 session in this class is like missing 3 sessions, so you really don't want to miss any classes anyway. So make sure that you can get here, and you will.
Wait, 5 times for this class?
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, because it's 1 day. Are you sure?
Yeah, so I think 5 sessions, which means if each class here kind of counts for 3 sessions, so maybe it's 2 absences.
2
I guess. I don't know. But that's really the rules say unexcused absences, so just keep me informed of what's going on. Don't just disappear. It's basically the idea here. Don't just like not show up and then I'm wondering where you are, because then at the end I'll have to give you a failing grade. Okay, work ethic. Now I know we're spending a lot of time here, and it's probably not going to feel great for you to actually work more, but it's actually very important for you to work hard on this class. There's a reason why we're doing this experiment to improve student performance. This class can be tough for a lot of people. It's not impossible, it's very possible to do well, but it will take some work, especially if you're not super solid on your math. And so pretty much work hard, especially if, I don't know if some of you have taken calculus before, precalculus before. Is there anyone who's done it before? If you have done it before, forget about it. That is surprisingly, that doesn't correlate very well. Usually students who have taken calculus before kind of approach the class with the attitude like, oh, I kind of know this already, so they kind of don't pay attention. And they end up doing slightly worse than the average student who hasn't taken calculus before. So that's strange. So if you have taken calculus before, don't be like, oh yeah, I got this. No, pay attention, do your work, keep your head down. You need to work hard, you need to work smart. Another thing, and I'll talk about that as well, because another thing that I find frustrating and a lot of students find frustrating, it is possible to be working hard at the class and still not doing well because you're doing the wrong things. So I'll talk about that, and there are times when I'll ask you to do things a certain way and it'll probably feel annoying or probably sound stupid, but the reason is, it's because that way works and the way you're thinking about is not gonna work, okay? So be careful of that. So I will be giving you advice in today's class and in the coming classes. So as I said, homework is being done through my MATLAB. You can access that material through your Blackboard. It seems like most of you have experience with that already. So just make sure that you can actually get into that. Late homework, not accepted, and there's no makeup for homework, so try to get those done on time. Yes?
Because in my last lab, 1023, my math lab actually shut down a lot of the time, so I emailed my professor with proof that it wasn't working. So if that's the case, will you give us like an extra time to complete it? Like maybe an extra day?
I guess so, if it's like something in the system, sure. Yeah.
Do you get 1 try in homework, or what is it?
Like an exam.
I think I haven't set it up, but I usually set it up for unlimited attempts.
Oh, okay.
So if you find that's not the case, let me know and I'll go in and fix it. Yeah, so that's my MATLAB homework. Any other questions on that? Okay. I think first try to get into it, make sure everything's all right, and if you have trouble, then you can talk to me and we'll figure something out. Prerequisite knowledge, you need to be very good at algebra and pre-calc, better than you think you have to be. Right, so you might say, oh yeah, I got an A in algebra or pre-calc. You're probably not good enough anyway. I don't say that to be condescending. As I'm saying, I'm trying to tell you the truth to make sure that you don't go into this class with unrealistic expectations. We will be covering a lot of prerequisite material to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page because I found it necessary. So technically, I'll get to this soon, but technically in our list of topics, like this section, lecture 2, like is not in our syllabus. I literally put it there because I found it necessary to go over algebra because students are usually not as good at their algebra as they need to be, right? So do not overestimate your algebra skills. It's going to be very important. and the class will be pretty hard or impossible if your algebra is not up to scratch. So make sure your algebra is up to scratch, and I'll talk about that later. That being said, there are some algebra mistakes that are unforgivable, if you consider them. And let's talk about those. So here are some mistakes that I've found that students traditionally make that really cause them a lot of points, a lot of trouble, a lot of headache, a lot of confusion. I call these blasphemies. Does anyone know what the word blasphemy means? It's like a really bad offense for which there's a really bad punishment. That's a blasphemy. It's usually used in a religious context, very inflammatory. But yeah, so these are the things that I expect you never to do. Even if someone's holding a gun to your head, you do not do this. So one of these things is that you should know you cannot cancel across sums. Do not do this, no matter what. Okay? So since pretty much if you do any of these mistakes, I'll give you a 0 on the problem that you did that mistake on. So you should pay attention. It's really important that you don't do these things. So because of that punishment, I'm going to explain what these are, so you can't say, I didn't know this, what you meant. I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean for all of these mistakes. So here's what I mean cancel across them. So let's say you're working on a problem and you end up at a point where it's like, okay, 2x plus 1 all over 2, and you're like, you can cancel the 2's. No, you cannot cancel the 2's. That is illegal. This is called canceling across a sum. So you cancel the 2, oh, the answer is x plus 1. It is not x plus 1. That is very wrong. This is no. You cannot cancel across a sum because there's a plus sign separating terms. You cannot cancel when terms are separated by plus signs. You can only cancel across multiplication and division. This is very important for you to know. Algebra is very important. Simplifying is very important. So you need to know how to do it properly. If you have something like this, you can cancel the 2's now because there's a multiplication sign here, and that's okay. All these colored markers. Ding! Right? And that's actually x plus 1 as the answer. But once things are separated by pluses or minuses, you cannot cancel across them. Okay? That's very important for you. Two. This is perhaps even more common than mistake number 1. Do not distribute powers across sums. What do I mean by that? So let's say you had something like x plus 2 all squared, and you're like, oh, well, that's x squared plus 4, isn't it? It's not x squared plus 4. That is very wrong. No. See, people who do that, what they think they're doing is that you can take the square, put on the x, and take the square, put on the 2. So that's just x squared plus 2 squared equals 4. That is not how you square a binomial. That is wrong. That is distributing a power across the sum. There's a plus sign here. You cannot just take something with a power and just put the power on all the things in the sum. That is very incorrect. Does anyone know what the correct answer is? Like if you had x plus 2 all squared, how do you actually?
4x in there?
Huh?
Can I have a 4x in there?
X squared plus 4x.
Yeah, x squared plus 4x plus 4. Right. It's because you have to FOIL it out. You should know that either you recognize that this actually means x plus 2 times x plus 2, and you do the FOIL first, outer, inner, last, and multiply out and combine like terms. Or you can remember some important formulas. That are very convenient to know, is that if you have something that looks like this, the result will, does anyone know how to complete this?
A squared.
Plus AB.
It's b squared. So this would be x squared plus 2 times x, which gives you 4x, plus the 2 squared, which is 4. That's this formula. It keeps the middle sign, right? So this is still a positive here, but there's a negative in the middle. The negative goes in the middle here. So this is called the squaring a binomial. Other nice formulas, by the way, since we're here. When you see that expression, and if you want to factor it, how would you do it? A plus b, a minus b. Right? This is called the difference of squares formula. You also have difference of cubes formula. Becomes a little bit longer. That's a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. And you can also have a sum of cubes. There's no sum of squares, but there's a sum of cubes. These forms especially come in handy. These might come in handy every now and then. Okay? So you should know how to expand powers, especially a square power shows up a lot. You should understand what a power means is that that expression is being multiplied by itself that many times. You'll have to expand the brackets to figure out what it is. You can't just take the power and attach to each piece. You're missing a lot of information. Another common way this shows up is sometimes students will see things like this. And they're like, oh, that's x plus 2, isn't it? It is not x plus 2. Okay? This is not correct. Okay? What you have to remember is that radicals are powers, right? How do you write a radical as a power?
A 2.
What's the power? This is a radical.
1/2.
It's 1/2, right? So the person who writes x plus 2, what they're thinking in their head, well, I can just take the square root of this and the square root of that. Right? So I take the square root of this sum, it's the square root of this and the square root of that. No, it's not. You cannot distribute powers across sums. And this one is a lot worse, actually, because if you were to expand this, you'd have an infinite number of terms. It's not like you miss one thing. You miss most things. So that, right, if you see something like this, you leave it alone. You don't try to simplify. That's pretty much as simple as you can do this expression, right? You should know that you can't just distribute a radical across sums because radicals are powers in disguise. They're just fractional powers. Okay? So you can't distribute that. So if you see this, leave it alone. I should probably come up with some mnemonics for these things. You see this, leave it. It's pretty much as simple as you can get here. So I know radicals scare people, and we'll talk about that, being scared versus and doing silly things because of it. So a lot of times people see radicals and they freak out, so they want to get rid of it immediately, so they either randomly square something when they shouldn't be squaring, or they distribute the radical, which they shouldn't be doing either. So be careful of that. So do not distribute powers across sums. You cannot distribute radicals across sums. You cannot distribute integer powers across sums. You should always avoid that. Here's the third one. Shows up every now and then, not as common as the previous two. But you should know that you cannot divide by 0. A lot of students might have the idea in their heads that, oh, divide by 0, that just makes it infinity, right? No, it does not. Division by 0 is completely meaningless. It means nothing mathematically. You should not think it means something. So if you write something like 2 divided by 0 equals infinity, no, you're wrong. That's not a thing. Division by 0 is not a thing. There will be cases that we will look at where our denominator is getting close to 0, but we never actually get there. And that is also a case that you kind of have to worry about what's going on. So for example, I shouldn't write that expression, we don't know about that here. So for example, if you look at the function 1 over x and let x get close to 0, right? So it's like you're getting super close to dividing by 0. What would you be able to say that is? Anyone have an idea? Yeah?
0. I forgot calc. 0 comma.
There are no commas.
Lin-
So for us, the answer
Oh,
to such an
oh.
expression.
Wait, so
is
X
lin
is
over.
zero?
Huh? Yeah, I'm talking about a limit here, which we haven't introduced yet, but I want you to think of the idea. Like suppose you have 1 divided by something, and that thing you're making close to 0, like 0.000001, or minus 0.00001. What's going to happen to the expression? It turns out for us, this will actually not have an answer. We'll put something called DNE, which means does not exist. It means it doesn't have an answer. Now, if you contrast that with 1 over x squared on this, under the same conditions, for us, this will have some meaning. We will define this to be infinity. Okay? So in one case, when the denominator gets close to 0, it's like, it doesn't mean anything. In another case, when the denominator is getting close to 0, oh, we'll think of that as infinity, right? So division by 0, it will change. You can get 0, you can get infinity, you can get a meaningless answer, you can get any other number. You have to be careful to not assume division by 0 is something that's concrete. It's something that you have to deal with on a case-by-case basis very carefully. Don't assume that there's some answer out there that covers all cases. It's a very special thing to worry about. You'll never want to divide by 0. It's never a thing. Here is something that you should do as opposed to do not. Do use parentheses. Don't be lazy. One thing that is pretty common is that sometimes students don't put parentheses, even though in their head they kind of know they should. But for some reason, I don't know why, they just decide not to do it, they get lazy. That can get you into a lot of trouble. Because sometimes the problems here, they can get kind of long. And if you're working on like step 5 or 6 of the problem, and in your head you had a mental note that a parenthesis was supposed to be there, by the time you get to step 5, you're not going to remember, right? So I've seen a lot of students who they kind of know that they should be doing it, but they don't write it down, and then they end up getting in trouble later. So don't be lazy. Make sure you're using parentheses correctly. Let's actually work through an example here in a case where a use of parentheses is important. Let's just also take a pulse of the room and see where we are. Suppose I gave you a function. And I asked you to compute this expression. Okay, go. What do we do?
Can we like do it?
Hmm?
Can we like do it and then?
No, talk to me. Tell me your first impressions. What would you do the first time you see this? Yeah.
Would you plug in f of x for every x in the bottom?
Okay, so tell me what would you write?
It would be f of x parentheses 2 minus x squared, or you can flip it into x squared minus x minus 2, whatever order, plus h, close parentheses minus.
Okay, okay, hold on. So you want to put 2 minus x squared plus h,
Yeah,
and then
minus 2 minus x squared over h.
okay, what do we think? Yeah?
Can we do that because the f, it's not f of x, it's just f of x, it's f parentheses x plus h. So can't
Right.
we-
Yeah.
So it has to be f.
So yes, there are a couple things wrong here. One, you should definitely have a parenthesis here. The second thing wrong is this expression. What is f of x plus h? What does that mean? Yeah.
you're plugging in x, like whatever x is, so like if it says, well, I would like arrange the function, like I would put negative x squared minus x plus 2, and then I plug in
Yeah.
what, like.
Why is that a thing you guys feel you have to do? Like, you don't have to rearrange anything.
It's easier for me.
Okay. Yeah, so an important way to think about functions is you do want to think of them as placeholders. So when you see this, you really want to kind of think of this, like your x happens to be a placeholder, right? Now, if x happens to be here, you put it here and you put it here. But literally, if you put anything else there, right? So I can put x plus h. That means you put x plus h, right? Or if I put 2, you would put a 2 and you put a 2. And if I put, it doesn't matter what I put. If I put a smiley face, you put a smiley face and you put a smiley face, right? You want to think of your function definitions as templates. The x's are just placeholders. You literally put in that position whatever is here, right? So this expression is not f of x plus h. What you actually did was you typed f of x and then you put an h separately, right? Now that's a very common mistake, so I don't want you to feel too badly about it. There's a reason why I chose this example, because I kind of knew that these mistakes would show up. So I do want you to think about these carefully. Let's actually do it now that we have this idea. So this is one of the things where both knowing the mistakes are going to happen by not knowing how to evaluate this, as well as not using parentheses properly. Between those two, the problem is you're going to get it horribly wrong. Okay, so let's actually try, where did the black mark? Page 12. Okay, so let's start over. Anyone want to take a crack at this? You want to try?
It would be 2 minus parentheses x plus h minus parentheses x plus h and then the square on the other side. And then minus parentheses 2 minus x minus x squared. Over h.
Right, so now that's what the top looks like. And this is the expression f of x plus h. Right? And this is your original f of x. Notice to find this, I just looked at the original and I replaced the x with x plus h, because whatever's in the parenthesis, I have to put in the position of x. Also notice my use of parentheses. I didn't just write down x plus h, I put it in parentheses. Right? Whenever you're thinking of a function, think of it as a situation where there are parentheses replacing the x's and you're literally dropping things in those spaces. Okay, so let's actually continue this example. What do we do?
Distribute.
Oh, why can't we cancel the h here?
Because of the plus sign.
Because you can't cancel across sums. Jhevon will literally kill you if you do that. Okay, so now, yeah, you want to distribute, so this is 2 minus x minus h. This is minus x squared minus h squared, right? This is right?
Wait, you can't distribute that like that. The
Right,
parent.
you can, yeah. I was seeing if someone would say, oh yeah, that's fine, and I'll throw the marker at you. You cannot distribute powers across sums. This is another place where that mistake can happen. They'll sneak up on you, right? I'm telling you the mistakes and they're like, obviously you know not to do that. But when it's in a huge mess, it's easy for that mistake to sneak up on you. I see it all the time. That is incorrect. Because this guy has 3 things in it. It's your x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Right? So that will be minus x squared minus 2xh minus h squared. Oh, now we can cancel the h, right? Cannot cancel the h. So if I can cancel the h, what can I do?
Combine my terms.
Combine like terms. Okay, what would that look like?
Well, 2's cancel.
X cancel. X squared cancel.
Negative 2xh minus h squared minus h, or in whatever order you want.
Okay, so now we can cancel h.
No.
No. Okay, can I cancel the h? What can I do?
You can,
Simplify?
No, you can like factor one. Yeah.
What does simplify mean? Okay, so I can factor out an h because it's a common term, quote unquote. What would I have left over with inside?
Negative 1. Minus 2x.
That's it. Now I can cancel the h, right? It's a multiplication. So this expression would be considered that. Does anyone remember what this is called, this expression, what it's called?
I forgot. It has been 2 years since I learned calc.
2 years, that's a really long time. I forgot all the calc is in the summer ones. Like I did, I did calc 1 in like the spring semester in high school, went on summer vacation, came back in the fall, like, what? Totally forgot it. Okay, so,
I forgot.
you
I
can
know-
forget math really
I,
quick.
I,
It's called the difference quotient, that's what it's called.
Yes.
And for reasons we'll explain later, it's very important that when simplifying a difference quotient, you cancel the original denominator. It is important to cancel the h. We'll explain later. But it is not considered simplified until you do. Right, so this is called a difference quotient. Whenever anyone asks you to evaluate such a thing, you need to keep simplifying until you cancel that h. Knowing that that's your goal, do not prematurely cancel the h. You cannot cancel across sums. You have to wait until you get to a point where you can factor that h out. To be able to get to that point will require a lot of algebra and a lot of good use of parentheses. Yes?
Will the h always be a denominator?
Yes, this expression is the difference quotient. That's always what it will be. Okay. So 2 important things you need to knowing what this means is a topic called composite functions, how to compose functions. We'll actually talk about that a little bit. But you should understand the function definition as just a template. Your x's are placeholders, where whatever you drop in here, you just put it in those positions and put parentheses around it. That should be, you don't just copy this and then put a plus h at the end. Very common mistake, you don't want to do that. As well as after a negative sign, you open a parenthesis, right? If you want to multiply 2 expressions with more than a few terms in them, you need to put them in parentheses. Make sure you're using your parentheses properly. Missing a parentheses means that stuff here is not going to cancel when they should. You're not going to be able to factor out an h and you're not going to be able to get to the end. Because the moment you messed up on things here, if this were a minus x, then that guy's not going to go away. You're going to have an extra x down here all of a sudden. And then what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to do it. Okay. Those are just some things to keep in mind. And you kind of noticed when we were going through the problems, I was saying, well, if I can't do that, what can I do? If I can't do that, what can I do? Oftentimes, knowing what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. Because once you decide what the illegal moves are, the legal moves will become evident. Because you're like saying, I can't do this or this or this. The only thing I can do is this. You kind of fall into the right answer just by knowing all the things you should avoid. So you want to know what you should do, but also what not to do. So you know I should use my parentheses, I shouldn't cancel things, I shouldn't just add an h to this and think that's f of x plus h. You should know, once you know all those things, you kind of will, and you have sufficiently good algebra skills, you'll kind of fall into the answer naturally. So that is what that section is about. So I want to make sure you guys understood what I meant by that, because these are very important. And a lot of mistakes happen in situations like these. Okay, let's move on. Let's get through this. So contact, again, I will be contacting you. I got your emails from CUNY first, so I have your college emails. So be sure to check your college emails for messages from me. So if I have to send any announcements or any important documents, or I have to send your report card so you can see your grades, I'll be sending those to your email. You might be getting emails from my email address listed on the first page, or something called Jupyter Grades, which is the gradebook system that I'm using. So you'll be able to see your grades in real time. So be sure to check your college email address regularly. If that email is not a good email for you to use, you need to email me and tell me, don't use my college email, use this email. But yeah, I'll be sending you stuff for the class there every now and then. Feedback is important. I would even welcome and encourage your feedback. So as long as it's constructive, so don't just be like, your teaching sucks. Be like, your teaching sucks because. You know, you don't do this, you don't do that. Right? You know, I think that this would be better. Because I'm here to get you guys to learn. I know a lot of times the math teacher seems like the bad guy who's trying to ruin my GPA. I'm on your side, I promise. I don't want to ruin anyone's GPA. I want you all to do very well. And so if something's not working for you or you're having issues, be sure to let me know and we'll try to figure something out. Help. If you need help in this course, which you probably will, I'm not trying to be condescending or anything, but it's a tough course. It's a challenging course for a lot of students. There are multiple sources you can get help. You can get free tutoring at the SACC Center. I don't know if they shortened that by SAC, but that's the location, that's the phone number in case you want to figure out their hours. I believe they're open on Saturdays, but I'm not super sure. So you can actually call them and find that out. Again, you'd have videos and final exam review and a bunch of stuff in your Blackboard 2009 All section. Again, note this will have a lot of the 2003 stuff in it, so don't be afraid of that. It's the same material. So you should also be aware that there are 2 Blackboards for the class. So I should probably mention that as well. In your list of Blackboard courses, you'll see 2 sets of things for this class. So on Blackboard, you'd see a Math 2009 All section, and this is the Blackboard set up by the Math department. So there you'll find a lot of general information. And documents about the course. So you'll find sample final exams there, and I'll be referring you there. You'll find the general syllabus. You'll find a lot of solutions to textbook problems, like the general things supplied by the Math department. This is different from the Blackboard for this particular class. Right, so you'll also see in the list Math 2009 section, I think we're LMSA, right? And that's this class Blackboard. So this will be materials for our class. So I'll put our particular syllabus there, and answers to quizzes, solutions to tests, test reviews, etc. Right? But as they apply to this class, specifically my class. right? So this is the general one for everyone. It'll have sample finals and things like that. And this is for our class, so be sure that you're not confused by that. So pretty much most of your time is going to be spent here. I'll send you here to review for tests pretty much. So I'm going to say, oh, to review for test 1, go here, pull up the sample final, do these problems. Okay, other than that, answers to textbook exercises you can find at that website. If you're ever at City College, there's a great math tutoring center there, and that's the location. A lot of online resources, mathhelpforum.com, and things like Wolfram Alpha, Symbol Lab, lots of things to graph, and you can check your work. I don't know if I can actually pull that up. Maybe I can pull that up and show you guys some stuff. Let's see. I'm gonna get these things to work first. This one. I'm about to like tie it to something. Can you see that? So let me show you some of these things. Like, do you guys know about Wolfram Alpha?
Yes.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, let me blow your minds. Awesome website. It's run by the same people who invented Mathematica. It's a lot of mathematics, but you can also have science help and culture and whatever. But we'll be using it for math help. You can do a lot of things here, especially if you're doing extra practice somewhere where you don't have solutions and you want to test your work. This is a good place to do it. So let's do, for example, f of x equal, what did we do? 2 minus x squared. Find, now of course, when you're using a computer, you have to use parentheses correctly or it's going to completely misunderstand you. F of x plus h minus f of x over h. There's the answer. That's the answer we got, right? So you could have done that on your own, but you don't have the answers anywhere. Type it in. We'll work it out for you. It will also do a lot of nice things, like give you a picture of what's going on. It'll tell you all sorts of craziness. But you can, a lot of help here. You can say, for those of you who have done calculus and you know what this means, if you haven't, don't worry about it. You can ask it to differentiate a function. Derivative of y equals x squared. You guys would also know it should be 2x, and it'll give you the answer right there. You can type in a function, and it'll tell you the answer. If you forgot how to graph y equals 1 over x, right? You can literally type in English, and it will figure out what you want. It tells you a lot of information about random things. It's a very good site. Sometimes it'll give you information here that you didn't realize you wanted that information. Like, oh, yeah, is actually good to know. So it's a very good site, very cool site. Even I use it very often, so it's very helpful. And so the appeal of this is you can literally kind of type half in English, half in math, and it will figure out what you want. If you kind of know exactly how to already set up a problem and you want to actually type in math symbols, Symbol Lab is good. It's listed in the syllabus. So here, right? So you can actually enter a problem and you can use templates to actually build a problem together. So I don't know what we want to do. I'm picking a random thing. So at some point you'll know what to type in here, and this will actually work it out for you, and it will give you the steps. It'll show you, think of it this way, you do this, you do this, you do this, and that's your answer. Right? It'll actually show you the steps if you actually know what to type in. So that's good. Sometimes I'm graphing things. I like the website graph.tk. Oh, I spelled that wrong.
You went to Twitter.
Oh. Yeah, graph.tk. Well, lucky it wasn't like the worst website that I went to. Yeah, and you can type like y equals 1 over x. Right? We'll graph that picture for you. So that's nice. I think another graphing website is Desmos, but I've heard of it, but I've never really used it.
It's complicated.
Yeah, so you might like it. But yeah, there are a lot of nice online there's Jupyter Grades giving attendance. A lot of nice things online. Of course, there's like YouTube. You can watch Patrick JMT do stuff. All sorts of nice things. But those two tools I think are extremely useful, like Wolfram Alpha and all that, and that stuff. And you can check your work with it. It's very nice. So that's the online stuff. Also, don't forget your classmates. Get the contact information of some people, make new friends. Probably set up study sessions outside of class, even though you guys are here together for like 6 hours. The class also has a recitation session, so you can bother Aaliyah when she comes in with whatever you want. This is the Student Disability Services message. If you have a disability that you think might affect your performance in this class, you should go see them pretty much immediately within the first week of class. Class rules, no cell phones, and no eating. I guess coffee is fine if you need it. Academic integrity statement, don't cheat. If you cheat and I catch it, I really have to do something about it. Advice, which we'll talk about more. I mean, putting it in a paragraph, it sounds pretty cheesy, but after all of it, you need to believe in yourself. Listen to Jhevon. Jhevon is not trying to lead you astray. Over 10 years of teaching, having thousands of students, I've learned a thing or two. I will give you the right advice. And a lot of students oftentimes deliberately ignore what I say. Well, this is word from my friend did this. Okay, I'm telling you this is what you need to do. So pay attention to your advice. And also remember the definition of insanity. I don't know what that definition was in Einstein. Is doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same results. So if you studied really hard for test 1, you did bad on test 1, and you do the exact same thing and do bad on test 2, probably switch it up after that. It's probably a good idea. Maybe something is not right. Keep track of your grades. They will not lie to you. They will tell you if you're doing something right or wrong. Don't just keep throwing more hours at things. If it's not working, stop doing the same thing. Learn that you have to switch things up sometimes, right? So if you're putting in 5 hours a week outside of class and you're really doing bad grades, you're doing something wrong. Or, well, not wrong probably, but maybe wrong for you. Maybe you're studying inefficiently, maybe you're studying the wrong problems. You can come and talk to me and we can figure that out. But yeah, a lot of times going by your personal feelings, they will lead you astray. Watch the numbers. Even watching the numbers, oftentimes I see students, they disagree. I understand more than this. I don't think this grade really shows what the grade shows what you understand. It always does, right? You will not be an A student and get a D on an exam. Oh, it's a simple mistake. No, it's not a simple mistake. You got a D. Like a simple mistake is not going to drop you from an A to a D. You need to be honest with yourselves and know when you should switch some things up. The numbers are not going to lie to you. You'll lie to yourself all the time. It's a human thing. We all do it. Academic calendar. So there are some important dates. So yeah, it seems like Thursday the 31st is the last day if you drop a course and get a 75% refund. So that's something, I guess. But I think, where's the change of program? I don't know. It should be here somewhere. But yeah, this is the academic calendar, at least as of last night, and I checked it. Okay, so these are the list of topics we're going to be doing. This is the rough dates on when I expect us to be able to do them, but the dates might, depending on if the class is moving fast or slow. So these are the topics, the sections in the textbook, and these are also the sections that you will be doing your MyMATLAB homework whenever they're due. These are actually problems from the textbook, but I believe they'll overlap nicely with MyMATLAB. Here are practice final exams, but I probably want you to ignore that copy for now, actually, because I will be referring you to those finals to do practice. And yes.
Are there dates for like when exams?
Yeah, it's right here. So if you read this, you'll notice that exam 1 is roughly going to be around February 23rd.
Like you said there's quizzes, but we have dates.
Oh, quizzes are every week.
Oh.
Quizzes is something that's going to be happening all the time. Yeah.
Every like Friday, every Saturday?
Yeah, every Saturday. Quizzes every week. Yeah.
Where's the calculator from?
Oh, it's the same from the test, from the text.
Oh, it's all from the text,
Yeah.
like the e-text?
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
Okay.
So you will be doing homework online, which you would be able to use your calculator for. But there are some in the textbook, these problems are designated specifically for your calculator, while these you should really try to do by hand. Because in this course, you'll have to do both. There's a section of the exam where you can do by hand, and there's a section where you do by calculator.
And
So don't rely too much on the calculator.
text homework we're gonna hand into you?
No, only handed online homework. Think of this as extra practice.
Oh, so the
Yeah.
only stuff that's.
Only online
The
homework.
graded homework, my math class.
Yes.
Oh,
Do you have the code for my math?
It's synced with your Blackboard, so if you go through Blackboard, you should be able to access it. There's gonna be a link somewhere.
Is
Yeah,
it on this class's Blackboard or the gym?
go to this class. But I believe that you can also go through the general. So there's gonna be a link that says purchase my MATLAB materials or something.
my math class homework is like the January 2020 today, so we'll do next week, today, like Monday, when is it?
Oh, due dates for the homework at least will be dynamic. You can pretty much expect homework every week, but for the specific sections, I'll move them as the class moves on.
Okay.
So you
But
just
like
keep paying
tonight's
attention.
homework, when is that going to be, just for example?
Well, next week probably,
Oh.
because to the topics today should be things you can get through relatively quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you see we have 4 exams. Their rough locations will be February 23rd for exam 1, about March 16th for exam 2, about March 30th for exam 3 because there's not a lot of material there, and around April 13th for exam 4. The last day to drop a course actually is April 1st. April Fool's Day. Yeah. And our final exam is around the 18th of May. And I'm pretty sure it's between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., so you can actually put that down as a rough estimate, but I might update that update the location and time.
The exams, so like, let's just say exam 4 is only gonna be like the stuff we do between March 30th and
Yes,
April.
so the exams are not cumulative, but the
Final.
final is,
Okay.
okay? And the exams, the finals is multiple choice. You have to show your work, but you actually fill in the answers on a Scantron. The exams will not be. I'm going to require you to show all your work. However, other than that, the exams will model the final exam. In the sense that in class, I'll give you half the exam to do by hand, I'll take it, and then I'll give you another half to do by the calculator. Because in the final will be like that. So other than it being multiple choice, it's really going to, I want it to feel like a final. I'll give you a similar time that you would have per question on a final, etc. Okay, so if you're doing very well on the in-class exams, you should do well on the final. That's my goal.
So like in class exams, no multiple choice? You said?
No. You'd have to show everything. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then there's a questionnaire. Remember, you fill this out, attach it. It's anonymous. You don't have to put your name on it. And then you can pass those to the front when they're done. And yeah, so that's the first section of the class, reading through the syllabus. I always kind of do that, make sure everyone's aware of the rules. Any other questions about anything? Of course, at any time, you can stop me and ask questions, and you can email me and ask me questions. Again, I'm here to help you. So now we're going to move on to the next section, which is a quiz. Our first quiz of the semester is today. We're a quiz every week, today's a week. So, it is. I'll turn.
That was a pop-up, right?
Huh?
You didn't even say that was a pop-up.
It's not a pop-up. I told you there's a quiz every week. It's announced. It's an announced quiz.
The hell?
I'd like you to do these without a calculator. You'll have about a half an hour on this particular quiz. And after you finish the quiz, we'll actually take a break and then begin some material.
How was the break?